anybody misses this and wants to see it later. Next slide, please. So using your, using your PSAT scores to increase college readiness, that's what we're going to talk about through these slides. Instruction for using this lesson. More than ever before, the PSAT supports students on their path to college readiness. Like all of the assessments in the SAT suite, the PSAT offers scores and reports that provide insight. The purpose of this lesson is to support educators as they review PSAT scores and reports with students. The lesson can be used with your students in a computer lab, leading them through the online reports and resources available to students when they log into their College Board account. This is totally tied to College Board, and that's the one thing, if you take anything away, make sure your students have signed up on College Board and created an account, because everything as they matriculate 9 through 12, everything is funneled through College Board. So it's really important that if they have not created an account, that they go ahead and do that now. So again, this is just a resource that you guys can use with your kids at home. We're going to use it with our students at school, but it is very important to understand how to interpret the scores that you get. And I'm going to turn it over at this point to Mr. Young for slide number 4.
All right, good evening. Thank you for attending. We got a pretty good crowd here. As Ms. Palekia said, the SAT is one of the exams that is ran by the College Board. And the College Board is an entity that not only has assessments, but they also provide a lot of tutorial resources as well. Tonight, we're going to focus primarily on the assessment tools that they have, which would be the PSAT. And then later on tonight, we'll talk a little bit about the SAT. There is a competing company to the College Board, which is the ACT. So you've got these two competing factors that are both assessing students to do what they call college predictor data. So these assessments, the one that we're going to be talking about from the College Board, PSAT in particular, and then eventually the SAT, is simply a predictor. It predicts how well a student will do in a college prep or college environment. All right. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about how to get to know the PSAT. The PSAT is exactly what the acronym denotes. It's the pre-SAT. It's not quite the SAT exam. It is the exam that's typically given as a way of gauging a student's ability to how well they're going to do on the actual SAT. And there are a couple of versions of the PSAT. There's one on the 8th grade, there's an 8, 9, there's a PSAT 10, but we use the one that's called the NMSQT, which is the National Merit Scholarship. Use so that we in the what the PSAT would do, it will assess what a student has learned in high school, and then it will also measure what you need to succeed in college. Oh, sorry. The PSAT measures reading, writing, and language, also math. And oftentimes, when they're assessing those questions that they have in those particular areas, some of the information that is asked, particularly in the reading and writing, isn't necessarily factual. And what I'm saying by that is that the literature may have fictitious dates, but they may have a very real theme to the story. For example, in their EBR section, which is the evidence-based reading and writing, they will have maybe a story about manifest destiny. So manifest destiny is the actual thing that actually happened. But some of the dates and some of the characters and that sort of thing won't necessarily be true because they're not really assessing the student's understanding or recalling of facts. They're trying to assess the student's understanding and how they think critically. I hope that makes sense. So the SAT is a critical examination of how a student reasons. It measures their reasoning ability and their ability to put different things together, moving pieces together. So it's not so much a concentration on this happened on 1718 or this happened in 1963. It's not so much of that. We allow teachers in the classroom to do with that. The College Board is just interested to see how the student thinks. And so they're not going to get them wrapped up in dates, but they will use familiar topics so that it will relax the student because they may have heard about manifest destiny before. I hope that makes sense. There's no penalty for guessing. And the test is usually just shy of 3 hours. It's about 2 hours and 45 minutes. You can access your scores online. You can review them. And you can also receive a paper score report as well. Oftentimes students do ask us for a copy of their scores, and we don't mind. We can download it and give them a hard copy. But as parents and students, you'll be given a login credentials to log in and get your child's score, or the child can get their own score. Here's the web address here where you will go and actually get your scores. It's studentscores.collegeboard.org. And as Ms. Palekia said, every student at some point, when they're in the walls of Midtown High School, will need to have a College Board account. We are, by the way, going to test our 11th graders. That will help those who've not set up an account yet. They'll get an account for that if they're going to participate in the exam on the SAT in the 3rd week of March. But this is the interface. This is what it looks like. You can see I have a lot of things going on. All right, the next screen was then ask the student to log in with their established username and password. All right, and then they're gonna click on matching tool, which is gonna bring up this here. And once you click on matching tool, then the student scores will be visible. That's the score right there. All right, we're gonna get a little bit about how to decipher and what does that 960 means at 910, what does all that mean? But here's that matching tool where you will actually, when you're on the sign-in page, you'll click the matching tool, and that's where you'll be able to access your student scores. All right, so what will I learn about my scores? Here's the student score right here, and they scored a 960. The highest that they can get is a 1520. That 960 is derived by these two areas. The evidence-based reading, we often call it EBR for short. And then you have your math section right here. So there's a 430 that the student scored and a 530 that they scored here in math. And that's how they came up with the 960. As we go a little further here, the EBR and the math both have what they call benchmarks. The benchmark is really based upon the national data. The SAT, the College Board, and their two exams, the PSAT and the SAT, are national norm reference exams, meaning based upon the performance of that cohort in the United States and its territories. So it includes students in the Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and Guam, and some of our military bases. That will determine what that benchmark is going to be. So the benchmark changes from year to year. And once we get into talking a little bit about what's a qualifying score for the national merit, that's based upon too the data or the performance of the students in that for the students in that cohort. So you'll see a lot of ebb and flows with certain years, the scores are really high. And in certain years, the scores are generally a little bit low. We just came out of a pandemic. So guess what? Our scores suffered, nationally. There was a gap of learning. It's not just here in APS, not just in the state of Georgia. It's in the United States and its territories because education was facilitated differently. So don't sweat if you or feel bad if you have a low score. It's all relative. That's my point, all right? When you get your scores, you're gonna see some color coding there. It's gonna be a red, it's gonna be a line here, that over with the red you'll see here in this area, this score for this particular student hypothetically is a 430, all right? That benchmark is a 460. That benchmark is a 460. And so keep that in mind. So anything below that benchmark, particularly below what that student scored, is typically going to be in red, where they're going to need to strengthen their skills. So if in fact a student happens to score at maybe somewhere around here, we'll just say that's about a 320, if you can see my cursor there. That score would be considered an area that needs a little bit of skill strengthening. All right, so they're below the benchmark of 460. You can see that score 460 there, okay. And then approaching the benchmark, which is in gold, and usually the gold color is always a little bit shorter. It's not as long as you would see for the other two colors, but the gold there will let you know they're approaching the benchmark. So a student right here would score maybe somewhere around a 400, 410, somewhere around there. And then the green will tell you if they've exceeded the benchmark. And that benchmark, again, is based upon how the scores are for this cohort year of students who are taking the exam. All right, so this particular student, how did they score? They're a little bit below the benchmark, all right? But they're not in the strengthening or needing to strengthen their skills area. So, but they're almost at smack dab in the middle, all right? And again, this is all relative, so based upon how students are scoring nationally. So that's not a bad score there. All right, the EBR and the math have what we call subsections. And those subsections have individual scores as well. So the EBR, the evidence-based reading and writing, will have a score for the reading. And there it is right here. And I'm having trouble with my cursor. I'm hoping you guys see the cursor move up and down. There it is right there. All right, see that person got a 23 in the reading, and then they had a score for the writing and language, and that's a 20. Yep. And then here's their math here, and they had a 26.5. Okay, so then let's break down the reading. The reading will have a sub area called command of evidence. So they're gonna try to assess a student's understanding of key words and the words that are gonna represent some sort of power in that statement or in that reading passage, or in that paragraph. And so the highest that they can get in that sub area would be a 15. In the sub area of reading alone, the highest that they can get there, as you can see, is a 38.
Mr. Young, I have a quick question, and I didn't want to wait until the bitter end. I know we were going to wait for questions at the end, but this is relevant to this. And the question is,
skipping.
Are the percentile rankings we see in the results based on historical scores that would include pre-pandemic test results, or just the scores for this year?
Okay. Thank you. I thought we were going to hold off on questions. Okay. I will say it's going to be based upon, because it's a national criterion test, so it's going to be based upon the current year. So when we're talking about benchmarks, that's for the testing results of this current year. And I mean, if you want to get national data from previous years, that can be provided. But when you look at your child's test scores, it's for that particular year. And I hope that answers that question.
And people can find the national results from previous years by just Googling that.
Yep, absolutely. All right. And so for the writing and language, the student got a 20 there. Highest that they can get there is a 38. Number of questions there, how many they got correct, how many they got incorrect, and how many were omitted. With the omitted part, I was meaning to say that you can skip a question and not be penalized for it. So there's no penalty for not answering. There's no penalty for really answering it incorrectly. It's really they're trying to assess your ability to do well in a college environment. So with these exams, particularly the College Board, there's a wrong answer, then there's a wrong answer, then there's a really wrong answer, if that makes sense. And so it's a qualifier sort of thing. And so they're looking to see, again, once you get your results, they're going to give what's called an AP potential, and that'll let you know how well you would do in an AP course. And that's your indication of how well you would do in a college prep or a college environment. All right. So here are the sub scores over here, all color coded. Again, we know what the red and the gold and the green means, but it does tell you how much total you would get out of each of these sub areas. In the writing, they do test the students' understanding of expression of ideas, their understanding of the standard English conventions, and that would be American English. And so their understanding of American English from students from New England to Hawaii should have some kind of understanding of the American style of English. There is also for math, here are your three sub areas for math: algebra, probability and stats. And then when it says passport to advanced math, is equivalent to our algebra 2. So this is kind of the reason why we prefer and encourage students in the 11th grade to start with this exam. However, if the student has been exposed to this, historically, this exam, along with the ACT, their competitor, we encourage this exam to be taken in the 11th grade, hence our giving it to our 11th grade class in the month of March. All right, so here is some more information about the score and the benchmark. And this is a little bit of information about how a student can actually qualify for the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation, located in the Chicago area, is a very, very prestigious recognition. And there's a monetary value attached to it as well. And so what they'll do is they'll look at the scores for that particular cohort, and they will then tally up the scores and come up with what's called their National Merit Qualifying Testing Score, which is what this 139 is here. And so how they'll do that, they'll take a look at what they received in reading, the score they got in writing and language, and then the score they got in math, and they'll multiply it by 2. And then that would be their NMSQT score. I'm trying to say that 5 or 6 times. And that score there would determine where they are in the standing of being recognized as a National Merit semifinalist or commended student. So it changes from year to year because it's based upon current cohort data. So you may have some students or your previous children may have got a score and they may have had a 150 and they were recognized maybe as a commended student. And then you may have another student that you know that got a 142 and they were a semifinalist. And because it depends on the criteria for that year and the performance of the students from that cohort. So, but that's how they score in terms of getting the students recognized for national merit. And we're usually notified sometime in late during the summer, definitely when we return in fall, who are our commended students and our national merit semifinalists are. But this is how they calculate it. Other things that come with getting your scores, you'll get a skill insight here. And the College Board is really good about really explaining things to you. And the skill insight is just going to inform you what you're already are likely able to do, how you can improve your skills. It's just a good narrative, just to kind of see the intent of this test and what else you can learn about your learning style and who you are and that sort of thing based upon their assessment. Some more information here about their score reporting. You can look online and you can also tell from your scores which answers were answered incorrectly. They'll actually show you there's a They'll have them all numbered. You got correct, which ones you got incorrect. And they'll provide you with a little explanation as well as to why that was not quite the right answer. And then they'll explain why there's an error made. And then they'll also explain which explanations are needed for additional explanation from your teacher. They'll tell you, you might want to go with your teacher to get more information about this particular subject or this question. You might need some remediation. Those are some of the tips that they may provide in the score report. All right. Here's checking the level of difficulty. And I hope you guys, I'm not freezing. Let me know if I'm freezing, Ms. Blevins.
Every now and then you have a little freeze.
Yeah, I thought so. I'm sorry about that. But all right, so here's your score report again, and it will also tell you the level of rigor the question would be or would have, and it will tell you in 3 categories. If it was an easy question there, if it was a medium question or hard. This is a symbol for if the answer was ever correct. If you omitted an answer, it would have that symbol next to it. And as you can see down here below, this is a sample of how that will look on the student score report on the 2nd or 3rd page. But this is just showing you what the symbols would mean. U would mean unscorable. They could not get the score for it. And as you can see, I could barely read that. I'm like, so that makes sense. It's unscorable. I can't even read it. All right, so then we have this X here. That means that it was not correct at all. Just giving you an idea what the symbols will mean once you're looking at your score report. All right. The College Board research shows that students who score 3 or higher on an AP exam typically experience greater academic success in college and are more likely to earn a college degree on time than a non-AP student. So when they're talking about looking at your PSAT scores and your AP potential, that would mean how well you would do in an AP course. We offer about 27 AP courses at our school. And so that could give you an indication when you're selecting your courses for next year, should you select an AP course? And it's based upon how well you've done in a particular subject area. So when you get your score report, it will tell you, which AP courses may be best for you. And they'll list all the AP courses here, and it'll give you a green indication by these 3 checks or 3 circles there, if that would be a doable subject for you per the College Board recommendations. All right, what are my next steps? Continue to take challenging courses, guys.
Mr. Young, I think Ms. Falcone is going to take over for the next few slides.
Is another competitor or compete program. Dual enrollment is where you take an actual college. I'm sorry. All right. Dual enrollment is where you take a college class, and that's also considered to be challenging courses. You don't necessarily have to limit yourself to AP, and you can actually do both. You can have a combination of AP classes and some dual enrollment courses. Get yourself enrolled in Khan Academy. Ms. Rucker is going to talk about the importance of Khan Academy, what it does, what kind of toolkit it provides to just help you strengthen your skills in advanced curriculum and rigorous courses. And set up a practice plan and stick to it. Make sure you register for the SAT outside of what we're going to give you in March. You can always take the SAT exam as many times as you like. The PSATs only offer once, and we provide that to you for our 10th and 11th graders. But the SAT, take it as many times as you like. There's no penalty to it. And then utilize other resources to research and prepare for college. Ms. Rucker, you're up next.
I think I'm actually supposed to be doing the next few slides, Mr. Young.
No worries.
Okay, so official SAT practice with Khan Academy. A lot of our students utilize Khan Academy, and it's one of the main ones that we promote because it is free. So one of the best ways to access Khan Academy is to simply go to satpractice.org, create your free account, and you can get personalized recommendations with your Khan Academy account by linking your College Board account to Khan Academy, as it will import your SAT /PSAT results. And it will actually create these personalized diagnostic, quizzes so that you can really practice, get tailored practice according to your results on the SAT/PSAT. And you can also create a study plan, select a test date, and then create a practice schedule. So really good online resource for preparing for the SAT based on your previous results and what your current goals are for the exam. So how can I practice with Khan Academy? So there's a lot of practice questions with videos that cover every SAT concept. So again, it is online. So it's going to be relying on a lot of videos, and then of course the practice questions. There are of course 8 official full-length SAT practice tests with more to come. So you can actually take a full SAT practice test through Khan Academy. The personalized recommendations that we talked about, the tailored practice schedule that we just talked about on the previous slide, and then SAT tips and strategies, sharing information about each part of the exam. Okay, so step 1, you will log in or create a Khan Academy account. When prompted, agree to link your Khan Academy and College Board accounts. You will then be directed to collegeboard.org. Sign in and create a College Board account. And then when prompted, hit send to authorize the account linking. And the final step is, of course, start practicing on official SAT practice on Khan Academy. And how can I link my College Board and Khan Academy accounts? After successfully logging into your College Board account, it's going to ask you to authorize the account linking between Khan Academy and the College Board account. So it's really important that you all know your username and your passwords. After clicking send, you will be directed to the SAT practice on the Khan Academy website. And then you can remove the link at any time by clicking on revoke, which is found on your College Board account settings. And it's also important to note that these things are not linked to colleges unless you want them to see your scores. So this is completely at your discretion and only something that you will see. And how do I register for the SAT? It is very simple. You will go to sat.org/register, and then of course create a College Board account so that you can access and send your scores.
All right, so students have multiple resources to help them plan and prepare for college. So some of the popular tools menu includes links to the College Board's tools within Big Future and Career Finder. The College Board developed Big Future in collaboration with parents, students, and educators to help make the college planning process easier and less overwhelming for students. At brightfutures.org, students can, they have search and match tools. Families can learn how to pay for college. They can create a personalized plan for college so students know what to do and when to do it. They also have Career Finder, which provides a career exploration tool that can help students to learn about their interests and how this may correspond to a future career. And then there's the Student Search Service, which connects colleges with potential students. And I'm ready for the next slide. And Big Future is the website that helps students plan for college. It's a free and comprehensive website that guides students as they prepare for, find, and enroll in college. At brightfuture.org, students can start to focus on their interests, themselves, what they want to study, how much financial assistance they'll think they'll need. They can search for colleges and easily compare them based on factors ranging from majors to size, location. They can watch videos from real students who explain what they did to get into college and what their college experiences have been like. Hear from education professionals who provide like the inside story to preparing for college and getting into college. They can also learn about different kinds of colleges and how to find the one that's right for them. And it's also valuable in helping students to learn how to pay for college by discovering what goes into college costs, how to find financing. They can build a personalized plan for realizing their goals and getting into a college that meets their needs. And then Career Finder can help blend all of those together to create a personalized journey for students through people, careers, and majors that align with their interests. It starts by looking at leaders who match their interests. So they might be famous people, or like, for example, a glass blower down the street who loves her job. Students can watch the videos of these leaders talking about their past. They can see what education and paths the leaders followed. And they also learn about how to align their majors with their interests, okay? So they'll get tangible recommendations for ways to be ready for their major, see examples of how leaders who have followed a similar path have gone, and then students can learn more directly about careers that align with their interests so that they know why it's worth putting in the effort right now into their high school classes and why it's worth going to college. And then the Student Search Service, it's a voluntary program. So it connects students with information about educational and financial opportunities from more than 1,200 colleges, universities, scholarship programs, and educational organizations. Students may choose to participate in the student search when they register for a College Board test. As part of taking the PSAT, students are asked to provide information about themselves on their answer sheet. And so then participating in eligible organizations can then search for groups of students who may be a good fit for their communities and programs. The search criteria can include any of the information from the answer sheet, but information on disabilities, parental education, self-reported parental income, social security numbers, phone numbers, and actual test scores are not shared. So the most searched items are the expected high school date, the GPA, and intended college major. If you have any questions or concerns about the Student Search Service, you can go to thecollegeboard.org, or you can call 866-825-8051. And so this information is available on the website. Here are some things that you can keep in mind about the Student Search Service. So the colleges who participate never receive the student scores or numbers. They can ask for the names of students within certain score ranges, but the exact scores are not reported. Okay, so being contacted by a college doesn't mean that you have been admitted. You must still submit an application in order to be considered for admission. The colleges and organizations that participate want to find students who will fit with their overall environment, their programs, their scholarships, and special activities. Okay, and so they will share your information with colleges and qualified search scholarship and educational programs that match you. All right, and so I will now turn it over to our guest speaker, Mr. Olu Sanya, and he's the Executive Director of Success Prep.
All right, thank you very much for having me here tonight. I'm just finishing an SAT prep class at Georgia Tech as we speak. So my name is Olu Sani. I'm the Executive Director at Success Prep. And essentially what we do is help students prepare for the SAT and the ACT test. Our preparation goes into really helping the student understand the test. For a lot of parents, obviously getting your student to college is not an easy task, and the SAT, ACT tests are is a part of that. And so what we do is we help students understand the different aspects of the test on the math side, on the verbal side, help parents even determine which test to take. One of the common things that I get from parents when they call us every day is to say, hey, which test should my student take? And if you go to our website, I'm not on my computer today, so I can't share my screen. I shared an infographic. Do we have that? Are we able to put that on the screen? Maybe that's the next slide possible.
Right. Mr. Young, do you have that?
Yes, Keep talking, Olu.
Okay, cool. So that infographic essentially has a breakdown of the differences between the SAT and the ACT. And that's actually also on our website on successprep.com. If you go there on the homepage, if you just scroll down, there's a big banner that says SAT versus ACT, which test should I take? And that's one way in which we help help you, the parent, determine which test is best for your student. Because one of the things I get from parents is, hey, which test should my student take? It really depends on the type of student you have. Because thank you very much. So if you could just make that big so we could see maybe presentation style. Thank you very much. Great. So if you take a look at this presentation here, you see on the SAT, on the math side, the big differences between the two tests. On the SAT, you have 83 questions, 83 seconds per question, while on the ACT, you have only 60 seconds per question. So one of the things you'll find out on the math section of the SAT is you have more time on the SAT when it comes to the math section. And also in terms of the math section, the ACT, A as an apple, it goes all the way to pre-calculus level, while on the SAT, you only have up to about algebra and a little bit of trig level on the ACT, on the SAT math. So one of the things we find with students that are struggling with timing is the SAT is a slightly better test from that perspective if your student is a little bit more methodical and needs more time. When you look at the reading and the English reading sections, we find that the ACT, A as an apple, is a little bit better for a student that's stronger with their reading and comprehension skills. 75% of the ACT is reading based. So if your student is really strong with the reading section, with just reading and English comprehension as a whole, the ACT, A as an apple, is slightly better from that perspective. Let's go to the next, the second page of this document. Yeah, thank you. So when you look at it overall, obviously you have the different breakdowns of the ACT out of 36 and the SAT is 1600. And you have the different times of the year when you take the test. The bigger, if you look at the very last part, it said, which test should I take? If you're stronger in math, the SAT favors you slightly. And if you're stronger in verbal, the ACT favors you slightly. But even then, about 70% of students still end up scoring about the same on both tests. So that's pretty much what I want to kind of give tonight. I know we have a very short time frame. Our information is at the very bottom there, our website, successprep.com. You can go there and see our upcoming classes. We have a class starting this Saturday at Decatur High. And our phone number is also there. You can call me anytime if you want to make some more decisions about your students' tests, especially for the March 11th test. Our 6-week class starts this Saturday. So you could call me and we could talk some more about that. Thanks, Mr. Lamar.
Oh, yes, thank you. Ms. Blevins?
Okay, so we are going to wrap up, but we want to open the floor, the chat. If anybody has any questions, anything that you need us to answer, we are here to answer those and happy to. I know that this seems like a short and concise is what I would call it presentation, but we know that there were some questions about the interpretation of the PSAT, and we also want to get our students geared up for the SAT and ACT that they will be taking. So it's really important that you do, if there is prep opportunities, that you take them and run with it. We just want to make sure our students are well prepared when they do take that SAT, ACT this spring. So are there any questions? Okay, I have a question. Will the March school SAT include the question answer service like the March 11th test?
The SAT that we provide as a school day is the same exam. We provide the EBR and the math portions of the exam. So if the question was alluding to if it was is it a real SAT? It is. It's the actual SAT. The College Board allows schools to have what's called a school day, and they'll allow high schools throughout the United States and its territories to administrate an actual SAT exam. And so it is the SAT exam. And so students have actually taken both tests that are offered in the month of March.
Mr. Olu, is there a particular grade the intense prep should begin?
I'm sorry. Is there a particular? Oh, you mean like a ninth grade or 10th grade or what have you? I think that's a great question. Normally, what we recommend to our clients is that you start your test prep process in second semester 10th grade with a 1-year mindset. And what I mean by that is most of the material on the SAT, is actually 9th, 10th, and a little bit of 11th grade material. So when you have your student as a 10th grader, second semester 10th grader, starting that process, they're closer to a lot of the 9th grade stuff. They're doing a lot of the 10th grade stuff, and a little bit of the 11th grade stuff that's left, we can always teach in our prep courses. And you always want to have a 1-year mindset because you're going to need to take the test probably 2 to 3 times is what we find.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Come on, guys. I know you got questions.
Here we go. Okay, so who gets to take the pre-ACT test? My older student didn't have this at Midtown. There isn't a pre-ACT test. There's only the ACT that is going to be given, correct?
Yes. And if anything changes with that, our testing coordinator would notify you guys. We are very new to the ACT exam being for school day with that testing company. So we're learning things every day. But yeah, we're going to be providing the ACT to the students on March 28th. And the SAT would be the week prior. But yeah, if anything changes with like the registration process, we're definitely going to keep everybody informed.
Well, they're saying pre-ACT, which I'm not aware of, but it says here pre-ACT announcement came out and said end of March. Okay, the newsletter says Atlanta Public Schools has moved the pre-ACT test date from the 13th of January to the 28th of March. More details regarding PSAT, including interest form, and will be sent out in February.
So I guess in February, we would know for sure who's going to participate in the pre-ACT and who's going to get the ACT. So again, you know, this is kind of an evolving thing with the ACT company because it's new in terms of how they're doing it on a school-wide basis. But yeah, that newsletter gave the correct information. And again, our testing coordinator, once we get more info from her, we will divvy it out and communicate it to our community so that everyone is informed. So all that's coming very soon, literally, like today is late January, so it's coming very soon.
And my guess is that the date changed has something to do with being able to offer it and who they're going to offer it to and the amount of people. That's why I don't think anything is absolutely set in stone, but just definitely stay posted. And it's good that you guys are reading the newsletter and staying up to date on that. So please continue to do that. And as we get information, Mr. Young will also put it out in the counseling blast that he sends out. Okay, I hear a lot of anecdotal stories that students do better on the ACT. Can you speak on how colleges look at this?
No, can I speak to this, please?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I literally have to fight parents off of that myth every single day. The SAT and the ACT, it really depends on the type of student you have. And that is the purpose of that infographic that I created, to show the advantages and disadvantages of each section of the test and then see how that fits with your student. Any college in the US will accept either test. What we want to find out is, and especially if you're starting this process early in late 9th grade or, at least by 10th grade, get your student to take one of each. And one of the things I always recommend, for example, the June test. The June testing is going to usually have the SAT on one Saturday and the ACT the Saturday right after. sign up your student for both of those, right? And as the student, as you're picking them up, from the testing center and driving them home, ask them, how was the test? Did you feel more comfortable? Did you finish your sections? Compare how they feel and how comfortable they feel with both of those sections and both of those tests on back-to-back Saturdays, which is why I like the June test for that. And then just make a determination. Give me a call. Let's talk about your student. Let's talk about what strengths and weaknesses your student has. But no, one test is not easier than the other. That is a myth. I have been debunking that myth for 20 years, and apparently it's very, very hard to debunk because it's still out there. But it's not true, no.
Okay, and another question. Are PSAT percentile rankings for 10th graders taking the test normed based only on results of other 10th graders? Or is this percentile scores based on every student taking the test, including 11th graders?
We take the NMSQT test, and so they're going to be taking that particular test. Now, they are going to take in consideration the grade levels, but there are a couple of other PSAT exams. We just don't offer them, but our form of the test that we offer, like I said, is the NMSQT test, and so that's the norm reference they're using for those students who are taking that test.
Yeah, and so that is national. I think that's
correct.
It's a national ranking.
Okay, and does it look poorly on the student if they take the same test many times?
Let me take that one. No. Understand that, the college board or even colleges are not going to say, hey, your student had to take the test 4 times, so they must be a bad human being. No, they're not going to do that. Most colleges, especially if they really like everything else about your student, will tell you, hey, if you could bump the score up 50 points, you can get a presidential scholarship. If you can bump your score up this many points, you can get in, and not have to be on a waiting list or what have you. So taking it multiple times is perfectly fine. Now, you do not want to just run your student into taking a test every time it's offered and get them to take it 6, 7, 8, 9 times. You don't want that either. And I said, on average, about 2 to 3 times is about a healthy amount, but make sure you're doing stuff in between. Are you taking prep? Are you studying? What are we looking at the scores from the previous test offering that they took and seeing what they need to improve? So as long as you're doing stuff in between and we're seeing progress, that's what we want. So about 2 to 3 times is what I would recommend.
Anybody else? Okay, no, just thank yous. Ms. Rucker and I were communicating, and as of right now, it looks like the ACT, and if we are going to offer the pre-ACT, will take place on that March 28th date right now. So just stay posted with that. Anybody else have any further questions, concerns? All right. Well, I am recording this, so we will have it available if you have any friends that did not get to attend this and would like to, or if you just want to go back and refresh your memory with what we talked about and discussed, or any information that was on here, it will be made available on the Midtown website within 24 hours or so. So have a great evening. Thank you so much for taking your time to join us. We appreciate it. And we will see your kids tomorrow.
Thank you.
Bye.